So after that, this was a reread. The non-fiction I picked up after. I'm lying when I say it's a reread, but it kind of is a reread. Let me just show you. It's Commando. Commando, a Boer journal of the Anglo Boer War by Deneys Reitz. So it's Deneys Reitz's journal and kind of like about what he wrote it right after the war, everything he experienced. Now, Deneys Reitz, what makes him interesting? Okay, well, let me say why this is technically a reread, and I technically haven't read it before, like read it, but I've listened. First, I got curious about it because there was a podcast on the Anglo Boer that took a lot from this one and followed. So it took a lot of this. Then I listened to the audiobook of this book as well. So it kind of felt like I already went through the story twice. But I was going to, if you've seen my books I'm definitely going to read this year, and especially on non-fiction, is the follow-up of Deneys Reitz from Commando that's in Tracking On, that tells about stuff that happened to him after and deals with a lot with World War I and the events there, because he also went, and he was like everywhere. He was in South Africa during World War I, he was in East Africa during World War I, and he ended up in Europe in World War I on the Western Front. So I really wanted to read that, but I thought I was going to read this first just to get like a refresher on where we were at Deneys Reitz. To my surprise, I thought I must have forgotten something. I barely forgot anything. I remembered most of this book because the audiobook, I think I listened to it 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And the series that was leading from this audiobook 3 years ago. So, and I thought maybe I'd forgotten a lot. No, but I'm glad I still read it again. It's something about reading a book. Like it's still a different experience between listening to an audiobook and reading a book. I like audiobooks, but reading a book is for me a different experience. So I still enjoy it, but I realized, I didn't really have to read it again. I remembered everything. Deneys Reitz was 17 years old when the war broke out, and he went out. He started to fight in the war. Now, I think that a real kid. And this is like, it's also interesting how his ideas of war are quickly shattered and changed. And then the horrible things you see, but also kind of just the spirit, the human spirit. Like he's going through he's seeing all this horrible stuff happening, and you can tell that at times, and he tells you it affects him deeply, or it's really, but he doesn't try and go into it too much. He also they never dally on anything necessarily over wrong, because he's just trying to, this is the things that happened to me and experienced. And it just reminds you how horrible war really is. And I mean, what's fascinating about it started, the Anglo Boer War started as a conventional war and then became a guerrilla war as it went on later. And you see this experience now changes, and how the country is getting destroyed through this war, and what the Deneys Reitz sees. And now, in the beginning, it's as horrible as in the beginning, it just keeps getting worse and worse because greater atrocities are happening and stuff like that. But at the still time, you get the sense that Deneys is on an adventure, and he kind of still sees it as an adventure to some degree, although his illusions about it has been shattered, and he knows awful things. The amount of times he talks about this person that was a friend of him, and then he died, and he was soon to be dead, and then he tells you how he died. So it pulls at the string, but it's really great if you just want to see how a boy went through a war, and the amount of times he almost died, and it was like little small things that, like, Deneys Reitz is one of those strange people that he strangely gets unscathed through. He goes through the most deadliest things where everybody dies, but he's one of those oddities that strangely gets unscathed. Fascinating story. Not completely unscathed. I mean, he breaks a leg at one point. There's bullets graze his scalp at one point and stuff like that. Amazing. But then you realize how lucky they are compared to ours, and that all little small details. Because he fought both in the Free State, in Natal, in Transvaal, and in the Cape Colony. So you kind of see a whole journey through the whole of South Africa during this time, and how things are different in each of the places during the war, and what's going on in the sentiments of the people around. One of the best, like, in war journals, and it's all amazing. It was a 17-year-old boy, and the amount of 17-year-old boys in the fighting day. There were a lot of them. They were considered, and I mean, that's still a thing of war, right? They still send kids, the 18, 20-year-olds today, has to go fight. And yeah, amazing. And it's like, it's not meant to be a depressing book, but it also doesn't shy away from the horrible things that happen. So it's actually kind of, the nature's spirit makes it feel uplifting, but it never shies away from the horrible things that happen. So I'm glad I reread it, even though I realized I didn't really have to. I remembered it pretty good. I like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen now. Oh, I know exactly what's going to happen now. Oh, almost every page. Well, then the vegetables have been completed.